Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Enders here, Zukaz and Zucoins. Today is a special treat. We're a little bit relaxed today. I have Robert Novak with me, and this is podcast number 8. Today's date's the 4th of September 2019, and it's a very, very special occasion. We are a little bit casual because we're feeling enormously relaxed with some of the news that we're going to share with you today. Before I do that though, I just want to send out some warm wishes and for all our family and friend members there in the Bahamas. Been hit pretty hard, as you know, Robert, with Hurricane Dorian, and I've been in touch with the team there, Wayne and Parrish, and they're all safe, but there are others that have had some really difficult times they're going to go through with damages and stuff. So we wish you well, and we trust that with the news you're going to get today will lift your spirits, because it's all about the Zucoins, and I'm sure you'll be excited to tuck them away, and that may give you some comfort in the long term. So Robert, we are relaxed. We are relaxed today because on the 29th of August last week, we finally, after many, many months, we got the good news from UL out of France. And this is the document, ladies and gentlemen. I'm unable to give you the full versions because there's a lot of secrets in there, Robert. Is that right?
Yeah, it pretty much covers most parts of how the system works. So
we'll
in great detail.
We'll be shredding this later, won't we? Because we don't want anybody to know what you're going to be doing, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's up to you.
So, look, ladies and gentlemen, Zucoin holders, massive news. And we're going to touch on quite a few areas today to go through it. But this is the official assessment report that was prepared. We got through from UL. The good news is that the evaluation that they went through, and I have done some redacted versions here just to sort of cover off on some points that I'm able to disclose, and I'll cover those with you, Robert. Yep. So the first thing is, as I said, if everybody's not certain, but ul.com, that's the site you need to see again, just to reinforce what they're about. Yep. In your words, Robert, just one sentence as to what the importance of UL from a business perspective means. Now we've got this.
They are one of the biggest, if not the biggest, corporate and government level auditing companies for all kinds of digital technologies. Pretty much most things you have from electronic devices, they'll have pretty much audited at some point. All kinds of systems, all kinds of servers, they handle all kinds of very, very important enterprise level auditing. So if you can pass them, it's a massive step in the right direction.
So again, for those that need to be reinforced about that, I'll just read you the introduction of the report, the first paragraph, Robert, which UL have summarised. And it says as follows, that split chain, which is the terminology that we've adopted now, because we're certainly not blockchain, and we're certainly now with this in our hot hands far superior, I would say, Robert, given the technology, and we'll talk about that. But split chain is a solution designed by Zukaz, developed by Robert Novak to ensure the security of the cryptocurrency Zucoins. The JavaScript-based wallet code is designed to be integrated into web applications, and split chain functionality includes the creation of the new wallet, transfer of value from one wallet to another, and wallet management functions. And encompassing within that, of course, is the depth of what had to be proven that meant that Robert was on the right track. More so than that, that he's actually developed something that's global, a global first. And I think we might just recap, Robert. What is the difference again? We see Bitcoin surging ahead, nearly over $10,000 this morning. Yeah. And the finer points between what is the crucial bits that we've now knocked on the head from Bitcoin of what you've achieved?
We are a fast transaction system. That's basically the biggest difference in a nutshell. Bitcoin is fast becoming a value store. It's something like a digital version of gold. People are tending to use that more and more for that purpose. One of the hardest things we've tried to achieve is how you transfer ownership really quickly. That's kind of what the main difference is with what we do. A ton of our processing is done between peers. It's not done through these mining or node servers. That's another big challenge we had to have, and it looks like we've passed that pretty well.
Well done, Robert. And so in general terms, then everybody, you're aware that if you want to buy your Bitcoin, you make your way through to an exchange and you get your fiat conversion. Yeah. most of the, if not all of the exchanges require your coins to be, as in Bitcoins, to be residing with the exchange. They then affect the transfers. But the problem has always been is that the blockchain is getting longer. The volume or quantum of blockchain is increasing in depth because there's a lot of the miners that have to validate those transactions.
Yeah, it gets harder to compute the more there is, basically.
and the incentive, of course, Robert, that's been the crucial issue. They only keep working because they're making coins.
Exactly. It gets to a point where the Bitcoins aren't worth the cost to mine it. It hasn't got there yet, but a few times in the past it's gotten there. And if that becomes more frequent, then there's no reason for it to exist. It's going, like the fees will have to just go up to the point where there's no upside to using it. Yeah, it's probably going to happen at some point.
And it'll, in my words, it'll fall off a cliff because no one's going to, you might be sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin, but no one will process it for you.
Yeah, it will just become another sort of institution for finance. It'll be no different to a bank just owned by many people. Kind of what Facebook's trying to do with Libra.
And I think you mentioned the other day, it's now slowing down to the point at 2.7 seconds transactions per second. Is that right?
Yeah.
So in real terms, you might have a lot of coins, and 3 hours later, you're waiting for someone to process.
Yeah. Well, the alternative is if you want it to be processed faster, you pay more fees. But then again, you don't have anything different to a traditional banking system.
So the good news that has reinforced again here, everybody, is that UL is reaffirming through their analysis and assessment of what the technology is about, that split chain technology of what Robert's just said and has said all along from day one, that he was going to be able to fragment the chain. Bits of pieces are residing with each of the individuals, and literally from peer to peer, the transaction again validates itself within the transaction, no third party.
The peers do all the grunt work. Yeah, it's peer to peer.
Fantastic. Well, as I said, the scope of the work from UL, if I go further with that, just to dig in a bit more here, Robert, again, the quote is that the objective of the present security assessment is to identify and report on the security vulnerabilities to allow the client to improve, the client being Zukaz and Zucoins, the security protection of the solution which has been developed and built by Robert for what we've just described. So it was a big tick. There was nothing that was glaringly obvious. There was a couple of recommendations that they said.
Yeah, they came up with 5 recommendations, mainly to do with how we store temporary session data. And that was one of the things we did already have on our to-do list to do. We just couldn't get it out in time for the audit because basically UL was having a summer holiday, so we kind of had to get the thing out as fast as possible. But those 5 recommendations, we've already pretty much checked off most of those already. And they're very, very small. They're really just, like for one example, one of them was, when you encrypt data, I'll just keep it very, very surface level. When you encrypt data, you have something called a nonce. A nonce is like a piece of an offset, basically, for how you encrypt something. We were kind of integrating that with the private key so that there's just less information in the wallet that's kept. One of the things I recommended was move that back into the wallet and just keep with more industry standard sort of behavior. It doesn't add more security. It's just kind of a method of where to store that piece of information. And that information, yeah, it doesn't change how the system works. It just really changes where you keep that piece of information. That's just one of the simple things like they've recommended. There's nothing serious, there's nothing core about the system that's wrong, which is awesome. They've checked on all the major pieces. It's literally just 5 small changes.
And I think what you're excited about, Robert, is that you've had, 4 or 5 of the highest level security cryptographers in UL in France.
Yeah, they had a bunch of different experts with different disciplines. We had technical experts, we had project managers, we had a couple of very, very high-level cryptography experts have a look at the code. They've signed off on it. They said all the cryptographic APIs are being used properly.
Yeah. So, well, in that light, just because this is a momentous occasion today will go down in history as one of the great, in my words, Bitcoin 2.0, Robert. And I know you're very modest with it, but certainly, it was a bit of an anticlimax for me, really, because I was just gobsmacked that we finally got it. But if you look at UL in their approach, it's important to note that, quote, during the review, the supplied documentation and source code, that is the nitty-gritty and the secrets that we're sitting on in here, plus all the other encrypted files you've done to protect the proprietary rights of it, Robert. But the source code was understood and analysed. Details of the implementation were assessed against commonly accepted key management principles, industry standard algorithms, and known vulnerabilities in cryptographic systems. The main file supplied for review was called Split Chain Peer Wallet and contained in main the 3 functions really: creation of the wallet, the lock of wallet and unlock wallet scenario, and of course the transfer of value, which is what we're all interested in, that moves swiftly with no fees and charges, no delays, instantaneous, and people can, at their leisure now, go from one person to another with that value.
Yeah.
So, and lastly, I think, Robert, if I circle back, as you indicated, they had the list of a few recommendations. You've covered those. Nothing of any great concerns, and it was all really in accordance with what you'd expected.
Yeah, it was what we expected. As I said, we had to get the system out in time before the break, the Northern Hemisphere summer break. So we basically put a bunch of to-dos where we had to fix some small things, and that's basically pretty much what they've detected. We actually found a couple of more since that, since we kind of sent it off to UL. So it's good they've gotten all that we found, and we've actually tweaked a few more things to make it even smoother.
Fantastic. Well, in closing, in terms of the UL report, ladies and gentlemen, they've indicated clearly that the review of the supplied source code and specifications confirmed that the industry standard algorithms and implementations are used for cryptography, and we've got the big tick. And again, Robert's mandate, it's important to understand that the ease of this transferability of value, Robert, it's beyond just the excitement of our coin holders with their wallets. We're now talking where you're leading into this with the open source capabilities for online merchants to accept Zucoins, to instantly get value. You're talking all sorts of applications, additional revenues into the coins.
Yeah, the system is really a fast way to prove ownership as you transact things. We can use it for all kinds of metadata. Like, as we mentioned before, Zucoins are the hardest combination to get right. We get this right, we can pretty much manage all kinds of other data, cloud data, decentralized search, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, this is the hardest use case to get right, and we've gotten it right, apparently.
So he's locked it in, everybody. He's got it. And of course, the fun part starts now. You're going to deep dive and come on with our team full time. You're excited about the prospects, everybody, that this can lead to, because as you know, Zukaz in its own right is a business, and it could be any business in the world that has a similar philosophy of putting value into the coins. It doesn't have to be Zukaz, but we're excited about the type of money we can put into the coins.
The whole economy is based on transacting value. You give me something for something else. This system is designed to do that without anyone owning it. You shouldn't be able to stop it once it launches.
Once it's out there, it's going to go crazy, Robert. That'll be the end of it. And certainly from a Zukaz perspective, ladies and gentlemen, just remember we've got a team in-house here, and there'll be some podcasts to reinforce what Zukaz is up to. But its testing and environment in the AR, augmented reality world, is going exceptionally well. And of course, you remember, we're going to use the first API in that open source environment to bring a 20% kicker of every dollar that comes directly from merchants and from the consumers, not from Zukaz. That's important to put that into the coins. And from what you've told me, that's the easy part now to get that rock and rolling.
Yeah, that's not the hardest part of this.
Well, Robert, I'm going to move into a couple of other areas while you're here, so everybody knows where we're going, because there are two more big questions that the Zucoin holders want. But the first thing is, I did mention it last time, I'm full of confidence in saying categorically now, everybody, that if you take the time to read the Libra white paper of Facebook, and it's interesting, a few of the big giants are jumping ship. They're disassociating themselves because of concerns of the regulatory issues and so on.
Well, it was just a handshake deal anyway. It wasn't anything in paper. So with most of the vendors, like Visa, the CEO of Visa, I think, one of the chiefs basically said it was just a handshake deal.
And the issue there is, you've got to remember that it's all right for Facebook to have 2.5 billion people. The problem they've got is they've still created a model like Ethereum, like everybody else, that some centralised or third party has to validate that transaction. We do not need anybody confirming the validity of that transfer.
That's the peers.
That's the peers do it themselves. That's crucial, everybody, because in the Libra white paper, if you go back and reflect, Facebook's talking about rolling out $1 billion to try and put this together. They've talked 5 years to create a permissionless state, which is what we've got right now, right here and now, everybody. So $1 billion, 5 years away from building what we've got now. And more importantly, they still need 100 nodes of people at $10 million a shot to value the very transaction.
And it's based on a similar method to Ethereum, as in you have fuel, like a fuel basically. If you want a transaction to go through faster, you have to pay more fees basically. So it's not that different to what Ethereum is doing. They're just trying to basically own a chunk of that market for themselves.
Fantastic. Well, the first question we want to get out of you, Robert, is we're there, we're here now. When does everybody get their hands on the wallet and their coins?
Well, we still have to be very careful. I mean, this audit was a big piece of the puzzle, but there's still lots of moving parts, and we have to kind of test each piece inside the app, inside Trader.io as the exchange. And when we release it, which will be, should be in the next few weeks, basically, once we've got a working version with Trader.io, we'll be very, very careful in terms of how we release it. We want to make sure all the sort of the peers are working as they should. All the transactions are going through as they should in the real world, not just in a bunch of our test environments. And we've done so many tests. We've done 2-3 months now of just testing very, very thoroughly. We have to make sure that the apps are going to be very smooth and reliable when you're doing a transaction. Again, we've done a ton of testing on that, but there's still tons of checklists to do. But yeah, one of the big things we're working on now, apart from kind of looking over that UL audit, is to kind of build up our connector to Trade.io's exchange. So basically, Trade.io has given us a bunch of APIs in terms of how we can integrate our system with their system, so we can have a really, really seamless integrated exchange process from conversion to a Zucoin to a fiat currency or an other cryptocurrency. And we just want to make that as smooth as possible. That's what we're working on now.
So your team and yourself objective, September is the go. I'm not going to put a date, but in September, ladies and gentlemen, whether that's towards the end of the month or earlier, but that's your goal, is to A, coins in your wallets, in your hands, you can transact amongst yourselves, and B, that the connectivity with Trade.io allows everybody to start. Yeah,
and it has to be smooth. Like, it's going to be very, very easy. Yeah. We haven't seen another cryptocurrency that's going to be integrated this smoothly into an exchange.
Yep. And Robert, just on that then, with the connection with Trade.io, of course the big feature is that not a single coin is with them. You've got a read-only. Can you explain again for everybody how that's going to function?
Yeah, so Trade.io basically looks for receipts on the network, proof that something happened, but they don't have to have like any sort of wallet with themselves based on your behalf, hosted by them. So traditionally, most exchanges in some way host some portion of your coins on their systems, which is why when they get hacked, they can basically transfer all your coins away from their system into someone else's wallet privately. With our system, Trade.io are very, very pleased, even their regulators are very pleased that they don't have to host any of your private wallet data, any of your coin data. So even if they were to be compromised, which would be terrible, they won't be able to kind of perform any instructions on your behalf.
So if you combine that, if you look at the validation that's now been ticked off by UL, that gives us two strings to our bow. One is the comfort to the larger institutions that would be looking at the trading on Trade.io, because they know they've got someone behind what you've created. And the second is the smaller retailers, of course, that we're going to bring on board, the merchants. They know that they've got some certainty as to this is a legitimate, powerful cryptocurrency that's readily acceptable.
Yeah, and one of the third pieces of that, that's the first two definitely. The third one is developers. We want third-party developers to integrate this in their own systems as quickly as possible, which is why we've designed a system from scratch to be very, very simple. It's the simplest cryptocurrency by far. It's only a few thousand lines of code. It runs on existing web technologies. The cryptographic APIs use well-known algorithms. We've tried to check as many boxes as we can to make it as easy to integrate into other systems as we can.
So if you think of that then, Robert, one of the things I'm excited about in my discussions with the larger institutions is that they really can't come to grips with the normal trading that you would see with, say, fiat currency, because there is no instantaneous value transfer with Bitcoin. And that causes problems in fluctuation, the volatility. So in this instance though, the moment you put that for sale, it's transferred, that's the end of it. They can trade on volume.
It will happen very fast.
Yes, which allows the whole new world to come into play here, not just the speculators in a Bitcoin environment.
Well, it gives you a real chance to use it in a real world. That's what we're going for.
And what about, Robert, in Australia at least, we do have obviously, if you make money on crypto, you pay your tax, you pay your dues. That's what life's all about. But this allows us some scope now with the sign-off for superannuation funds, a small percentage, which are legally entitled.
I mean, there's tons of uses for this thing. We can, like any kind of data you want to store in a way that proves ownership, and that a transaction happened, you can use it for.
Well, on the next step then, Robert, one of the other parties you've been working close to, which is now, he's very excited, as I understand, you've had communication, Everybody probably is not aware, but there's a gentleman in London called Sam Volkering.
Yeah.
He heads up a publishing outfit called Secret Crypto Network. What's the latest with Sam now that he's aware of the UL report? Very excited.
Yep.
We're up to.
So Sam's told us he's pretty much done with his review of the system. He's just kind of tweaking up some details and kind of finishing up on that. So far, everything's sounding pretty good. We're still waiting for the full report from Sam, which should be any day now. And then, yeah, he's going to himself go over the UL audit report and see what he thinks of that. But yeah, it's all looking pretty good from Sam.
So just to let you know, everybody, that Sam has written some very exciting publications, particularly on Bitcoin. He's a big fan. He did allude to in a couple of his published books that he was concerned about the efficiencies of Bitcoin for the reasons we've talked about. Yeah. This would be the utopia of where he wants to see that.
Oh, yeah.
Sam has also stepped out, and I'm pleased to announce that Sam's consultant to Zukaz, specifically for our interest in what we will have as Zucoins as well. Yeah. And that's why Robert's working with Sam, and very excited, and you'll see some exciting releases from Sam about this is where the world's heading with split chain. So exciting there. And Robert, just finally, you're a hard man to gauge sometimes. Everything's pretty casual. It's been an amazing 12 months. For me, our businesses, we haven't had to raise $1 billion to get the outcome that we've seen. It's been an amazing journey. You are a genius, but how did you feel when you got it? Was it just, did you go out drinking? What happened?
Well, it wasn't one moment. It just, you keep working on it and you just keep simplifying bits, and eventually it starts working. Like I've mentioned, I think it was probably in the last podcast, this is our third version of this system. We've kind of looked at how everything else works first, because obviously it wouldn't rebuild it if there was no need to rebuild it. All the other cryptocurrencies have quite a lot of problems. And this is our third approach to this. It's the simplest approach to this. We keep taking down pieces that we don't need to make it even faster and more efficient. And as I mentioned, it should be really easy to integrate. But there was no one big sort of moment that kind of...
Didn't sort of jump up and down the other night?
No, it's just a lot of little tweaking of pieces and adjusting and rethinking things. And eventually it just starts working.
Well, I'm going to leave it at that. A little bit of a long podcast today, but it is a momentous occasion, everybody. Put your seatbelts on, get ready, because he's changed the course of crypto history. There's no doubt about it. I'm excited. This is the report. Just have a little quick look at the front. That's all you get. That's it. And we'll put that away, and that'll go in the vaults, Robert. But, mate, you're fantastic. Pleasure.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.